Okay, so you're on. We're all live now on YouTube. Let's go back to this picture. So I'll go back to your answers in a minute. So it says, after looking at an aquarium, list all of the organisms you see, and when you're finished, make a list of all the factors that affect the survival of that organism in the aquarium. Well, I look at this aquarium and I see a lot of living and non-living things. Let's see what you guys came up with. Fish, coral, sand, water, seaweed, sponges. Oh, I'm going to lock you out here. Coral reefs, temperature. Okay, those are all living things. Then the non-living, temperature, precipitation, climate. Communities would be living. Ecosystem would be the living and the non-living together. Fish and coral. Chicken floating. Okay, didn't see that. Where's the chicken? I don't see the chicken. I didn't see it. Predators, disease, pollution, clownfish, a crab, plankton, angelfish, core, sea anemones. Yeah. Okay. Algae, food that keeps them alive. Oh, these are the non-living things. Oxygen, sunlight, temperature. That's Ubonics for temperature. Salinity. Stop, Noah. So I'm seeing a lot of living and non-living things. Good. That's what I need to see. All right. So list one, fish, bacteria, vegetation, water. Is vegetation alive? Yeah. Yeah, it is. Are bacteria alive? Yeah, it is. So those should be in the living category. Rocks are not alive. No. Coral, sponge, and algae. Temperature, pollution, food. Number of organisms. Just looking for new things now. Turtles. I didn't see turtles. Was there a turtle in there? You guys are making stuff up now. That's okay. I could imagine a turtle in there. All right. So what we're going to cover today, the parts of an ecosystem, how an ecosystem responds to changes, both living and non-living changes. We'll talk about pioneer species in succession, the factors of the climate that determine a biome, the weather. This is the chapter where we get to talk about some of those biomes. You guys probably remember talking about like savanna, tropical rainforest, all that. Okay, that's like a fun part about biology, right? Yeah. No more of that chemistry stuff for a little bit. Whew. Little break, right? Okay. We'll get back into that later. Don't worry. Yep. Well, here's why. There is. Let me explain to you why. We're about to talk about cycling matter through an ecosystem. So we learned about matter, right? And then that's going to involve water and everything we talked about. So that's why. Okay. So, yes. Do we do a lot of what? Projects? I do at least one project per chapter. Last one we did like 2 or 3, right? Yeah. Yep. So the factors of a climate are determined by the biome. And the 3 major groups of terrestrial biomes we're going to talk about, land, and a couple different types of aquatic ones we'll reference. And then we'll talk about 4 kinds of aquatic ecosystems. So there's a group of various species that live in the same place and interact with one another. We call that a community. Now, is this classroom, if I just look at the people, are we a community? Be careful answering this. I'm going to go ahead and ask you. Are we a community in this classroom, yes or no? Are we a community? Are we a community? Kind of a trick question. Are we a community? So let me give you the definition of a community. A community is more than one population living together. Are we a community? So now more of you say no. Now, it's a trick question because what if I thought about all the bacteria that are in my mouth, all the little bugs that are crawling around this room? Now if I ask you the question, is this room a community? What would you tell me? Well, now, yes, because I include more things, right? And so depending on what I give you, the answers will change, right? So you have to be very careful when you read these types of questions because a community is more than one population in an area. But if I tell you there's only one population and that's all I'm counting, that's a population, not a community. Okay, but like if I added the humans and all the spiders in this room, we would then be a community. Yeah, I got a lot of spiders in here. I have a ton of them. Who doesn't like spiders? I love spiders. Yeah. The more legs, the merrier, right? No? So the group along with the living and non-living environment make up the ecosystem. So if I add up all the living and non-living things, that means the community and then all of the temperature, all of the rocks, all those things you talked about. In that picture, I end up with an ecosystem. Okay? Now an ecosystem includes a community of organisms and their physical environment. So that means everything living and non-living in that particular area is the ecosystem. So yes, that means all the biotic and abiotic things. If I put an A before something, it means what? Everybody say not. Not. So if biotic means living, abiotic means not living. Okay. So a community of organisms is a web of relationships. You guys have talked about food webs. We'll reference those in this chapter too. And relationships between organisms are examples of biotic factors that affect an ecosystem. And remember, we just talked about it. Biotic describes living factors in an ecosystem. And the physical or non-living factors of an ecosystem are called abiotic factors. And examples of abiotic factors are oxygen, water, rocks, sand, sunlight, temperature, and climate. Now remember, what you're trying to identify there are these two words, biotic and abiotic. Living, non-living. Now a habitat we know is a place where an organism lives. My habitat's my home, right? Your habitat's your home. That's where you live, or your hometown. Let me give you, let's see if you can, how about A for abiotic, B for biotic? Let's see what you guys tell me. All right, how about a turtle? Turtle. I didn't say a turd, I said a turtle. Turtle is obviously biotic, right? Living. Everybody put B down. Choose B. Quit with your C's and D's. None of this nonsense. There you go. All right. How about a thunderstorm? Come on, folks. I'm just giving you easy ones to see if you can actually participate. Okay. Next one. We'll find out who you are, CD. I can figure it out. Do it again. Oh, do it again. I got you that time. Oh, oops. I gotta get out of here. I'll find out. Don't you worry. Watch this. Go over here. Who are you? Oh, Joel. Okay. How about this one? How about algae? Algae. Algae. Algae, that's my microwave at home. It's an algae. I think it's my washer and dryer too. Just when you think it's over, I got more. Oh, CD, you're killing me, whoever you are. All right, let's hop back. You get the idea. Oop, wrong way, hop forward. Like a bunny. All right. So the variety of organisms in a given area is called biodiversity. Bio meaning life. We know what diversity is, right? We live in America. We're the most diverse country in the world, I think. Well, maybe not, but I think we might be. Yep. Are you telling me I missed? Did I miss one? Oh, I took that out. Just cross that out. I took that out. I forgot about that. I did that earlier today. Sorry about that, guys. So the physical factors can have a big influence on biodiversity. High or low temperatures or limited food or water can lower biodiversity. So what it's saying is the amount of resources available can limit the number or types of populations I have in my community. That makes sense. I mean, you go to like a desert, there's less food and things to go around, right? Less nutrients there, and so you have less variety there. You go to a rainforest and there's like too much, and then you have all this different types of life and all this biodiversity going on. And so ecosystems with high biodiversity are often more able to resist damage. So if I have more different types of things and more of them all, and I suffer, let's say, a huge hurricane, it's less apt to extinct one of my species than another area that just has 2 or 3 of each type, okay? Now, damage to ecosystems can be caused by severe weather events or human activities. Systems with low biodiversity can be severely damaged easily, and when biodiversity decreases in an ecosystem, that ecosystem is not as healthy as it could be. I got to go back? Here? I'll wait for a second and then I'll move on. And I'm going to move forward now. Okay. So if I gave you an environment that had 10 different species in it, and I gave you another that had 5 different species in it, obviously the one with 10 different species is going to be more biodiverse. I think you guys can understand that. So if you look at a state like Michigan and compare us to a state like, Texas, that's a good one. That'll work. And you compare us to Texas, who's more biodiverse? Michigan, for sure. Okay? Okay, and the reason for that is we have the ability to grow more food. We have more resources here. Therefore, we do have more diversity in our species. Okay, I tried to pick I should have picked a more deserty area. Like how about West Africa? That's better. Right? They're in the news right now. Right? We know where that's at. I went straight from West Africa to Texas. That was not intentional. That's just the 2 places that were on my mind, obviously. But seriously, what was that nurse thinking flying with a 100-degree fever after she touched somebody with a mola? Like, what were you thinking, lady? What were you thinking? We'll talk about that later, but there was a nurse that decided after she actually took her temperature and said, I got a 100-degree temperature. I'm going to fly even though I just touched somebody with a mola. It was 99.5. And it was like 100.4 is the threshold, and she still went. Like, good Lord, what are you thinking? I mean, if I had a sneeze and I had touched somebody with Ebola, I would be in the hospital getting checked that second. But that's the difference between somebody who's pretty young, probably not married, thought they were invincible, and me, who's like got a family at home. I might go home and kill them if I sneeze on them. I mean, right? So I get it's a different train of thought. It takes a while to get there. Hindsight's 20/20 for everybody. I understand, but still, shame on her. Yes, yes. No, let me talk about that later. I'm recording this, so I'll do that later. I promise. Okay. So and I will talk about it because it fits right into biology, right? So succession, success. It sounds good, right? It is. So the replacement of one kind of community by another at a single place over a period of time is called succession. If you succeed, you replace somebody, right? Like, I think of wrestling. You wrestle off, you win, you replace that person in the lineup. Or you try out for a sport and you're better than somebody, you replace them, right? Okay? Or in a play, if you act better than somebody, you get the leading role in the play and then they're the understudy. Okay? So I think we all can understand success and succeeding over somebody at something. I love success, right? It's a good thing. It's competition. It's what makes America beautiful. Now, you guys, so in the ecosystem perspective, succession is when something competes better than something else for that particular resource, so it succeeds over them. Now, the first organism to appear in a newly made habitat is what is called a pioneer species. And we all understand the word pioneer because we're Americans, and that's what we were, inevitably. That's where we started, right? We were pioneers in a new area, and we succeeded over the Native Americans. which is kind of controversial, but that's what happened, right? Okay, so we came in and we did a lot of bad things and we took a country, okay? Not us, but like multiple races and populations of people. So they changed the habitat in such a way that other species can live in the ecosystem. So we did that to America. We changed America so that European life could be here, and that's what happened. Trying to connect history to biology is kind of working. I don't know. Hello? I do. Okay. Yep. Tanner, someone's here to pick you up? Yep. Your review will be on Skyward, and keys are your homework. Okay. All right. So, yes. Often the new species is going to replace the pioneer species. You guys, folks, not always though. Okay. Sometimes it's a new combination of both species living together. Sometimes they divide the resource. We'll talk about that later as well. How about this? Can you guys think of an example where you've seen one species replace another? See what you guys come up with. Don't say it, type it. Don't say it, type it. Shh. This does not involve a conversation. Doesn't. You guys all have a device. Have at it. Ooh, there's Asian carp. That's a good one. Invasive species can be almost pioneer species, right? I like that. Human, yeah, we're a good example, humans. Unicorns, all right. Moss being replaced by grass. Ooh, I like that one. That's a good one. Lamprey, not lamprey. Gobies, yep. Cheese. I don't get that. Cheese. Somebody explain cheese to me. Well, I guess maybe I don't know how we're going to do that one. Never mind. We're getting off cheese. Brown recluse, okay, kind of. So you guys came up with a lot of animal. I'm going to lock it out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So mammals replacing dinosaurs, that would have worked. I got a lot of large examples from you, and that's okay. What I mean by large is you guys went straight to like the animal kingdom, right? Okay. So an ecosystem responds to changes in such a way that the ecosystem restores back to equilibrium. Let me ask you this. When you cut your lawn and you mow it down, what happens the next week? It grows right back, right? Even, let's say this, what if you dig a trench through your yard and you just have a line of dirt, but you still have grass on each side? Eventually, what will happen? It will grow back into grass, right? Eventually, okay? So that is succession as well. So when a tree falls down in a rainforest, a newly vacant patch proceeds through succession until it returns back to its original state. And sometimes the ecosystem will find an equilibrium in which different species dominate after a change has occurred. How about this? A volcano erupts. Does that landscape change quite a bit afterwards? Yeah, like before a volcano goes off, you got this big rocky mountain basically structure in front of you. A volcano blows up, ash goes everywhere, mudslides, la-di-la-di-la-di, everything goes balooey. Balooey, I don't know what that is. That's a new type of whale. So after that, you get a lot of growth, right? Like mushrooms, blueberry plants, green everything everywhere, right? Because all the nitrogen. So sometimes it completely changes the landscape. I like blueberries too. Blue's my favorite color. I know. So if you look at, I know it's a terrible image. I need to find a different picture. All right. So if you look up here, let's talk about what happened in Michigan. Because this is it. Let's look at these 3 pictures. This, I know you can't tell, is a glacier. Okay? Folks, as glaciers move, they carve the earth right down to what? Rock. Okay? And then rock. Can something break rock down? Yeah, it's called lichen. We're going to talk about that. Okay? Lichen is a community of different organisms, little microbes, kind of like pond water in a way. And so that's that gray stuff you see growing on the sides of trees. Mr. Ullman, what are you looking at? Show me your phone. Well, don't change the phone and then show me your phone. All right. So as we succeed and go through succession, rock is actually broken down by lichen, that gray stuff on the sides of trees and on rocks. Okay? And then lichen becomes moss. Moss becomes what? What's the stuff in between the trees? Grass. Then grass becomes small bushes. Then bushes become trees. And then trees become, hardwoods. Then hardwoods get replaced by evergreens and conifers. Okay? That is the succession of a forest. Now, if you take something down to rock, bare rock, with a glacier or anything really, that is what will happen in that order. Who was the first pioneer species in that description? Lichen. Everybody say lichen. Lichen. It's lichen rock, right? All right. So the kinds of species that live in a particular place are determined by the climate. Sorry about that. So the climate is the average weather condition in an area over a long period of time. And that brings us to our favorite topic, the biomes, right? Who doesn't like talking about biomes? They're fun. You don't like biomes? A little bit? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bring in the Planet Earth game while you guys make your cycle books. It'll be fun. We'll play with biomes. Don't worry. So a biome is a large region characterized by a specific kind of climate and certain kinds of plants and animal communities. So when we refer to a biome, we have to take different things into account other than just climate. Climate plays a huge role, the weather you get. What are some other factors that will come into your biome, not just what I've told you here, but just actually list some. What would contribute to a biome? Some actual things. I know some things. Thing 1 and thing 2. Don't put that. See it coming. Organisms, trees, and water. You have the types of vegetation you have. I like that. Precipitation, climate. Yep. You guys took the easy out there. Trees, water, rain, organisms. Yep, rain. That's what I was looking for. Types of precipitation, types of weather, right? Snow, maybe. You quit hitting enter like 1,000 times, whoever's doing that. That's disruptive. Trees, climate change. Okay. Rain, snow, temperature, organisms, animals, plants, water. Location. Okay, what do you mean by location? Somebody tell me location. What does that mean? Location. Tell me in your own words, what does location mean? Go ahead and type something else in. New answer. Let's go. What does location mean? Where it is? Okay, that's cool. Tell me something more defining than that. A place. Tell me something more defining than a place. Latitude and longitude. That's good. What else? Coordinates. Yep, latitude, longitude. What else? Location. Looking for one more word. Latitude, longitude tells you how far you are from the equator, how close you are to the polar caps, okay? I'm looking for altitude would be another one, right? All right, so all of those things are going to come into play. So 2 key factors of climate that determine biomes are temperature and precipitation. So if I ask you about climate, I'm referring to how hot is it and how much water do you get? Those 2 things are your climate. Now, we all have different types of climate based on your longitude, latitude, and altitude, but those 2 measurements, how hot it is and how much precipitation you get, are indicative to the climate. Let me explain that. Water, is that pretty important to living things? Yeah, we just spent a whole chapter discussing it. And then I look at temperature, law of conservation of mass and energy, right? Is that pretty important to living things? Yeah. So what it's really saying is how much water and how much energy you have to put into your system will define the type of system you have. So most organisms are adapted to live with a particular range of temperatures and cannot survive at temperatures too far or below that range. Now, us as humans, we're warm-blooded, so we have the ability to control and regulate our body temperature to a certain point, right? I'm guessing that point is right around 42 degrees. I'm not guessing, I know. Below 42 degrees, you go through hypothermia. Okay, if I get above 105, I start to have real problems regulating my temperature for any long period of time. But then we have this big range. Fall above or below that, we're in trouble. Why? We come from a temperate temperate forest, not rainforest. Okay? So we'll explain more about that later. Now, if I'm a polar bear, I have a different range, right? Okay. So Earth's major terrestrial biomes can be grouped. I missed one, didn't I? No, you didn't. I didn't do this one? Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I apologize. Earth's major terrestrial biomes can be grouped by latitude. You guys told me that. Latitude affects the amount of solar energy a biome receives and thus affects the biome's temperature range. Remember, that's how far you are from the equator, right? The tropical ones are pretty close to the equator. And then those that are the most far away, we say are high latitude biomes and are above 60 degrees latitude. And the ones between 30 and 60 are called temperate biomes. What parallel are we on roughly in Michigan? 44. Yeah, like right around here, I think it's 43.5 for this area. If you go up by me, I'm on the 45th parallel. Remember, I live up north. So I'm on the 45th parallel. So, you know, I guess we're probably anywhere from 40 to 50 in lower Michigan, right? Somewhere in there. Okay? And so looking at that and knowing that, we can say we are a type of a temperate biome, right? We're not a high latitude. We're not a low latitude biome. We're right, and we're not a tropical biome, obviously, by any stretch of the means. Okay. We get that. And so then when I look at the areas of the world, the biomes of the world, it starts to make sense. A little bit, maybe. Blow this up a little bit so we can see it. Now, if I take a look, hop off to the side, at the equator, and then I look at the biomes that are close within, I should say, 30 degrees north or 30 degrees south, I can see that these are indeed my tropical regions of the world. You know, like everywhere we want to go on vacation at, right? Well, except for West Africa and Texas. We know that, right? What? Not right now. They can keep it. Put a big fence around it. They're the ones that want the fence up. They can have it. Put it right around Texas till they take care of their business. All right. So, anyway, I will talk about disease. Where does most of the disease stem from, the big nasty ones on the planet? Right in these areas, not just Africa, but in these regions of the world. Now let me explain that. Let's talk about this, and folks, I don't say it to pick on them, but they live and they're in this area that has a lot of energy, right? If you have a lot of energy, you have a lot of diversity, which means you have a lot of different types of things, including bacteria and viruses, right? And so, viruses aren't alive, but still they have a lot of different types of them. Because of these areas have all of these resources at their disposal, they tend to produce a lot of nasty things because they just have more variety. That's all it comes down to. They have more temperature, right? And in some of those places, they have more water. And the water thing, you guys, is what will change these biomes in this region, how much water they have, okay? I see deserts here, and I also see tropical rainforests here. So water is a huge determining factor, that amount of precipitation. Yeah, water, water, water. Now, anything that falls above 30 degrees is either going to be temperate or it's going to be high latitude. Now, we are in the mid-range. Where are we at? We're right here. It's a nice little temperate forest. We should all know our biome, right? I mean, something we should all know. So this area, this northeast area of the United States, and even all the way down in most of Florida, is actually considered a temperate forest. Okay? We have a few deserts in our country, but most of our our country is some type of forest. Okay, we have our temperate biomes. Okay, temperate is great. Here's why: we get enough water. It's not too hot, so we don't get like a lot of droughts. So we're able to, and we have a lot of resources. So we're able to grow a lot of food, right? And then we go across the planet and we see all these other nice areas that are also able to do that and have huge populations and don't have as much disease, right? And then we go north of there and we run into the opposite problem of those that near the equator have. We end up with those high latitudes. The high latitudes have enough water. What are they lacking in the high latitudes? Temperature, right? Energy. Okay. So the only things that live there have these like really unique ways of retaining and keeping their energy in. Like a polar bear has hollow hairs so that they don't get too cold. Obviously, yeah. They're in no pigment. They're actually, if you looked at them under a microscope, they're actually crystal clear. Yeah, they're hollow. They're like a tube. Yeah. Oh, because air isn't. You don't believe it? Look it up. Oh, okay. Oh, the skin, yeah, but you can't see it. Yeah. So that hollow tube is what actually, it's like an air tube. Like the insulation in your home is air. That's like between your walls. That puffy insulation, it holds air. That's what it's trying to do. And so that holds all that heat in for a polar bear. Or they have oils, right, like blubber and things like that, like fats that don't get hard, right? Like a whale. A beluga. Now I can use that word, right? A beluga I tried earlier. So looking at our tropical biomes, because they are located at low latitudes near the equator, all tropical biomes are warm. I think that kind of goes without saying in a way, doesn't it? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop before I start talking about these because I'm not going to get done. I can tell right now. I know I won't. And so I'm